Chapter 91 Who is Johnny Silverhand and the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The climax of this banquet began when Professor McGonagall announced the cancellation of this year's final exam. Near 3:30, Hagrid returned from the Ministry of Magic. This made Harry very happy, and went over to give him a firm hug. I don't know what's going on, the director of the Auror office is quite nice to me. Hagrid was puzzled when asked how things were going at the Ministry of Magic. Although Lucius was committed to sending him to Azkaban, the Auror office refused to persuade him and gave him a big bed to lie down on. Rather than being in confinement, he was on vacation at the Ministry of Magic. Rufus Scrimgeour asked me to say hello to Lord Johnny Silverhand, whom I don't even know. Harry asked curiously, Johnny Silverhand? Who is that? Hagrid picked up a glass of beer and took a sip. The taste of nostalgia made him smack his lips, and said, the owner of the Silverhand Johnny store in Knockturn Alley. My God, you don't know how popular those things are in the Auror office. As a frequent visitor to Knockturn Alley, Hagrid collected materials for John, and at the same time went to the Johnny Silverhand store, which sold a level higher than Knockturn Alley. That greedy mundungus was also working there, and he looked like a dog in a change of clothes, wishing he could empty everyone's pockets. I heard that Johnny Silverhand donated a batch of striker equipment to the Auror office. I guess they misunderstood. Hagrid thought Rufus Scrimgeour had misunderstood him knowing Johnny Silverhand, but that was a good thing. For this, he drank 3 glasses of beer, which were filled with a refill spell, and he drank non-stop. Harry remembered the name Johnny Silverhand, which seemed like a pretty big deal, finding his little friend and talking about it. Ron held a chicken leg in each hand, and his mouth was full from eating. Johnny Silverhand, I know him. My dad said he turned in a bunch of dark arts to the ministry, which made Dad stand up at the ministry. Bogenbach was ransacked by John. He knew what he needed to do to reassure the Ministry of Magic, so he handed in half of the black magic items. This move successfully won the favor of the Ministry of Magic. Even Fudge said that if the wizards in Knockturn Alley could be so conscious, they would have 2 Diagon Alleys. Regarding Johnny Silverhand, everyone has never seen him, but it does not prevent the Ministry of Magic from having a good impression of this mysterious guy. Seeing that they were interested in the Silverhand Johnny store, Hermione immediately played the role of the old mother and warned, Harry, you forgot that you were almost taken away by the old witch when you started school. Please, Hermione, don't bring this up. The black history of Lord Savior was brought out again, and Harry wished he could find a hole to get in. Even Ron laughed mercilessly, and then Hermione focused fire on him, causing him to fall into autism. Both Hagrid and Mrs. Weasley said we can't go there, it's too dangerous. That Johnny Silverhand is in Knockturn Alley, maybe he's a dark wizard. Repeatedly warning the 2 Masters of Death, Hermione showed the throne of the family. John sneezed twice in a row, and he touched his nose, as if someone said himself. In April, Mandrix mature. Professor Snape never imagined that he had to make potion for a cat. Filch courted Professor Snape during this time, and all his hopes for Mrs. Norris were here. After taking the antidote, Mrs. Norris returned to normal. A few days before Easter, Professor McGonagall made them take 3rd year courses. John glanced at the curriculum above: arithmancy, ancient runes, divination, Muggle studies, care of fantastic beasts, 5 electives, from which John needs to choose the ones he wants to study. Ancient runes, also known as ancient runes, were essential to John. Muggle studies. John, who was a Muggle in his previous life, has an understanding of Muggle society. It can be said that it is not an exaggeration to say that he is one version ahead. Protecting magical animals. John is somewhat interested in this. There are many places related to alchemy that have magical animals. Arithmetic, divination and divination are both divination, but the areas involved are different. Arithmancy, the study of the magical properties of numbers, is very difficult to learn because it requires memorization or the use of numerous diagrams. Divination is different. There are many methods and means, including fire omens, crystal balls, palmistry, card divination, astrology and dream interpretation. Divination is about innate talent. When Professor McGonagall talked about this subject, he couldn't help saying that it was the least rigorous knowledge. To sum up, John felt that he was quite interested in all the classes. He simply chose them all. As for the time conflict, it doesn't matter. John just needs to get a perfect score in the test. Muggle studies can be done once or twice once in a while, even if he doesn't take classes. He knows more about Muggles than wizards who spend their time in the wizarding world. Easter is here. During this period of time, John buried himself in earning points, scoring points for Slytherin at a speed that outstripped others by dozens of streets. Especially in the defense against the dark arts class, John's score was outrageous. Lockhart almost got him a point for saying a word. As the saying goes, you have referees cheating, and I have off-court support. Under John's frantic pursuit of points, the Slytherin points funnel caught up with Gryffindor at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gryffindor, who was originally full of confidence, was stabbed like a needle, and did not dare to relax, and started the involution mode to score points. Needless to say, Ravenclaw, although they are the third in 10,000 years, they are known for their cleverness, and they are originally an introverted academy. Hufflepuff, the people who eat melons, saw that everyone was so curly, and it would be impolite to lie flat, so they worked hard. This phenomenon amazed the professors. They never thought that after cancelling the final exam, everyone would work harder. This made Dumbledore couldn't help but consider whether to cancel the final exam in the future. It can be said that John alone succeeded in driving the school's introvert atmosphere, that is, he rushed to answer in front of Hermione every time in class, which made Hermione gnash her teeth a little more towards John. Daphne's secret was discovered by John, and she dared not appear in front of John for a while. She thought John would respond to her, but she didn't expect John to be addicted to earning points, which made her happy and angry. The Slytherin Chamber of Secrets, knowing that there is a way into the Forbidden Forest, John doesn't need to bother Harry. He entered the room inside the statue. Except for a trace left by years of sliding, the contents inside were not too dusty. Magic is probably used. This room is divided into 3 floors. The first floor is a place similar to a studio, where all kinds of scary magical creatures are soaked in liquid. Some were smashed, probably because the basilisk was hungry. The second floor is the office. The golden candlestick is placed on the table, there are some spells on the silverware of the skull head, and there is a long box. The Slytherin era took away. The third floor is similar to the restricted area. John went in and took out a book, which recorded black magic. There are also books about taboos or the human body, which are not suitable for young wizards to study. I'm afraid Salazar Slytherin contributed more than half the banned books in the library. John rummaged through a few books, and the things inside were creepy. One of the books with an unknown leather cover, some of the content in it made John very interested, and he stopped flipping through it. Blood curse. There was a strange color in John's eyes, and he closed the book. The inheritance test was not triggered in the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets. Presumably, the heir of Slytherin is Voldemort. With Voldemort's temperament, he won't keep anything good for you. It is estimated that these books were not taken away because they were not convenient to carry. That's cheap John. For the rest of the term, John was in and out of the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets. His knowledge was accumulating at a rapid pace, which slowed him down in class. The many students who were almost out of breath breathed a sigh of relief. They were really afraid of this paper king, but even so, John's pace of adding points did not stop. After the arrival of May, Gryffindor was horrified to see the Slytherin points catching up. The Slytherins burst into cheers, and even Malfoy, who knew that Lucius had been stripped of his directorship, put on his smile again. Everyone knows that Slytherin is because of whom. John frowned under the crowd. We haven't reached the moment of victory yet, so we can't relax. His words calmed the Slytherins. Yes, who knows if Gryffindor will inexplicably add points again before the end of the semester, which rings the alarm for Slytherin. Sweeping away the cheers just now, Slytherin burned with unprecedented fighting spirit. They are like inextricably condensed ropes, unreasonably united. Chapter 92 Sad Hagrid and the Seeking of the Invisible Beast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hagrid, don't cry, spiders don't come back from the dead. In Hagrid's hut, the 5-year-old Hagrid burst into tears. After he came back, he was busy tending the grassy vegetable garden, and when he had time to go to the Forbidden Forest to find his old friend, the ground was covered with spider corpses that had been burned. Aragog survived, but was also very weak from the smoke. The 3 little ones comforted Hagrid here. Hagrid blew his nose and said, I don't know who did it, it's too cruel. The 3 little ones looked at each other, and Harry said unnaturally, maybe it was just an accident. I mean, the Forbidden Forest is very dangerous, isn't it? Hagrid thought it made sense when he heard the words, but he said strangely, but I remember that except for the centaur and werewolf, the others don't use fire. Aragog had cataracts, and John didn't get in, so he didn't know that John did it. These words made the three little ones feel even more guilty, and each of them began to divert his attention by talking to him. Hagrid finally recovered. Hagrid's hut is the only safe haven for the three little ones when the king's fashion is in full swing. Coming here makes them feel like they have stepped out of the endless sea of books. Suddenly, a dog barking sounded from outside. Yaya heard the sound, and the lying dog legs scratched the ground a few times before standing up. It's Tom, he came to play with Fanya. As the dog who controls Yaya's dog food, Tom has always been the boss in front of Yaya. The door was opened, and John was there besides Tom. John took Tom for a walk to Hagrid's hut and said hello to him. Hagrid, I've heard all about you, I hope your grief will pass. He sent Hagrid 10 baguettes and a big loaf of bread from his uncle, food that was too soft for Hagrid to like. Thank you John, it's very kind of you. Bringing up the sad matter, Hagrid wiped his nose. John nodded without changing his expression, as if he didn't burn the spider's nest. As soon as Ron saw John, he held his head subconsciously, and he had a stress response to the King of Rolls. Hermione, as the only one who could compete with the Paper King, asked, John, how many elective courses did you choose? I thought they all looked interesting, so I chose them all. Harry and Ron looked terrified at John laughing and saying inappropriate things. Hermione, who found several courses in conflict, was hesitant to choose which one to choose, but now she has to choose all of them. Harry and Ron, who were sandwiched between the two, were weak and helpless. This incident caused heavy damage to their young hearts. Invited in for tea, John took a bite of a rock cake. He found that his bite force seemed to have become stronger, and a hole was bitten out of the rock cake. John chewed, and it would have tasted pretty good if it wasn't so hard. John, do you have a gun? Harry hesitated and asked the question he had kept in his heart for a long time. While dealing with Riddle, he saw John with a gun. He didn't understand why a wizard would have such a dangerous weapon as a pistol. When Hermione heard this, she looked at John in disbelief, and said in surprise, You brought such a dangerous thing into school? John nodded and said, I do, but guns are not as dangerous as you think. Not shy about owning contraband, John took out the empty pistol. I just don't know why, this gun hasn't even passed half a year since Christmas, and it's already rusty. Hogwarts' magical magnetic field will damage Muggle items to a certain extent, and for wizards, pistols are not too dangerous except for some surprises. John gave an example and said, being hit by a bullet is a fatal thing. For wizards, we have potions that can regenerate bones, but it is not fatal except for a little pain. Of course, there are some exceptions, for example, hitting the heart and the like. Although the wizard is powerful, he is still a person in essence. John put it lightly. He was tested, well, on Riddle. Riddle was shot at least 3 times and remained silent. John blamed it on the fact that wizards have special constitutions, but this does not mean that wizards are above Muggles. On the contrary, if Muggles want to eliminate wizards, in addition to taking some time and needing to be careful to resist the ability of wizards to appear and disappear, it can be said to be more lethal, so neither of them wants to have too much contact with each other. Cardinality is everything. There are too many Muggles, plus any weapon can make ordinary people have the ability to take lives. Hearing him say this, Harry and Hermione reluctantly accepted. While Ron was still asking what a gun was, the 2 dogs playing outside barked. John went out to check. The fence outside the door opened 2 eyes. It's an invisible beast. The invisible beast saw John with a look of human joy on his face. Tom was still barking, and John told him to stop. Are you looking for me? That it can be said that the invisible beast has done a great job, and John walked out. The invisible beast pointed in the direction of the forbidden forest. Seeing what it meant, it seemed that it wanted John to go with it. Go John, the invisible beast is a gentle animal and will not harm people. Hagrid's eyes widened when he saw the rare invisible beast. If it wasn't for fear of scaring the invisible beast, Hagrid really wanted to have a good chat with it. The invisible beast came to find John on purpose. John looked back at Harry and the others thoughtfully, nodded and said, I'll go with you. He said goodbye to Harry and others, and asked Hermione to take care of Tom. The invisible beast walked in front, and John followed. 1 man and 1 beast entered the forbidden forest. After passing through a forest, they came to a tree. It was a big tree with several bowtruckles and a bird's nest on it. "You want me to go to the bird's nest?" John saw the invisible beast jump up and down, and John saw it and floated up. Before reaching the nest, the bowtruckle sticks out its tongue vigilantly. John signaled that he was not malicious, and when he arrived at the bird's nest, there were broken silver eggshells inside. "Is this silver?" Picking up one of the eggshells, something flashed through John's mind. "Bird and snake." He carefully removed the broken egg shell, and there was a bird snake with wings inside. This is a magical animal whose size can change with space. This bird snake was just born, and its eyes haven't even been opened yet. John knew why the invisible beast and the bowtruckle were in such a hurry. The bird and snake seemed to be in a bad situation. I recall that Professor Sylvanus Kettleburn kept some jays, which may be the offspring of those jays. Taking the bird snake down carefully, John saw the invisible beast approaching. It pointed to the bird and snake, and then to John, hoping that John could take care of the bird and snake. John shook his head and said, "I know someone who takes good care of it. Trust me, he's the best." The invisible beast is dubious, and John promises it. Before leaving the forbidden forest, John kept looking at the invisible beast. After the end of this semester, he will get new blood of magic power, and he will need the blood of a magic creature at that time. Although he has the blood of the basilisk, after seeing the invisible beast, he has other ideas. "If it's the blood of an invisible beast, will I strengthen the illusion spell?" John stared at the invisible beast, saying that he would repay his kindness with revenge. That would be impossible, so he chose to trade with the invisible beast. After leaving the forbidden forest, John had some more invisible beast blood in his hand. Finding Hagrid, John took out the newborn bird snake. After seeing the bird and snake, Hagrid almost crushed the bones of John's body without being excited, a hug so hard that John almost thought his bones were about to break. With Hagrid, an expert in magizoology, John wasn't worried that something would happen to the bird or snake. The three little ones gathered around to look at the bird and snake. After leaving Hagrid's cabin, John heads to the room of requirement. He felt that his alchemy skills were about to reach level 4, taking advantage of the abundant time at hand. He is going to rush to level 4 in one go. Slytherin students are like chicken blood, even in Quidditch. Malfoy wants to show his shame, and let people know that he is not only relying on his father. It's a pity that Harry, a natural seeker, was superior, and Malfoy was so angry that he dropped Nimbus 2001 on the spot. Time passed little by little, and this semester ushered in the end. Slytherin defended his winning streak by less than 10 points, much to the pity of Gryffindor. Slytherin, who had been tense for 2 months, finally breathed a sigh of relief, and they chanted John Wick's name. Chapter 93: The Second Magic Ramp and Tooth Decay. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before the station, Hagrid promised repeatedly that he would take good care of the poor little guy. It can be seen that Hagrid really likes fantastic beasts. Ron ran on the train as fast as he could, because John borrowed Scabbers from him, and it was said that he was going to do some experiments, and the biggest side effect was sterilization. Scabbers was so scared that he got into Ron's pocket and dared not come out, which made John feel very sorry. The train left Hogsmeade Station, and John began to settle at the same time. Ding, complete the Hogwarts stage task 2, passed the second school year of the Magic Apprentice. Task reward, Magic Blood +1, any point +3. Ding, keep the first grade in the grade until the end of the semester, get any point +1, blessing, hardworking and studious. All of a sudden, 4 points were earned at any point, plus the 2 points obtained from the Gryffindor inheritance test earlier, a total of 6 points. John felt as if he was getting richer, and he called up the panel to check it out. Magic power, level 4, 755/5000.434444433.74233, blessings, physical fitness, quick attack, precision, Shuaba 2.0, pilot, long distance running, sword dance, night devil, troll buster, night, fire swallowing, deterrence, hardening, dragon language, botanist, studious. I took a closer look at my skills, and ignored those below level 3. Although the floating spell is a basic skill, it is very easy to use. Needless to say, the illusion curse, as a regular skill, is also a great skill of Yeo. If I want to integrate the blood of an invisible beast, I am not in a hurry to upgrade. Broken body is very easy to use by itself, and it is also the main output method. Level 4 is currently sufficient. Needless to say, Fierce Fire was completely uncontrollable after reaching level 4. Before the mana reached level 5, John would not consider upgrading. Occlumency and Transfiguration can be considered. The Patronus charm was found in the Gryffindor Chamber of Secrets. In the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets, there are mostly research materials and black magic, while Gryffindor is the opposite, and of course black magic is indispensable. Even the most powerful wizard cannot avoid the need to learn the dark arts. I thought that runes and alchemy were about to reach level 4, and they could wait until level 4 before upgrading. It's a pity that I didn't go up until the end of the semester. At any point at 6, John hesitated for a while, and chose to upgrade his Transfiguration to level 4. He tapped the Patronus charm again. The shape of the Patronus can be vaguely seen with the Patronus charm at level 3. After reaching level 4, it can already manifest. After consuming 2 random points, John clicked the Iron Armor Curse again. Level 4 Iron Armor Curse can already reach the level of many Aurors, leaving 3 random points, 2 for upgraded alchemy and runes, and 1 for emergencies. After the distribution, the train arrives at the station. He bid farewell to a group of friends, and his father was already waiting outside. John feels that it is too inconvenient to take a car every time he goes home. He set himself a goal to learn to apparate during this vacation. Without leaving London immediately, John made a trip to Knockturn Alley. Johnny the Silverhand has developed into a force to be reckoned with, and Tang Mi is appointed as the captain of the security team. Among his men are werewolves and wizards. One of the werewolves struck John as familiar. His name was Remus Lupin. Tang Mi also told him about the excellence of this werewolf, but it was a pity that Lupin seemed to be arrive home. After a week, John opened the basement. He held the magic blood in his hand, and from time to time there were various colors in it that turned into invisible beasts. With the experience of last time, John sealed the basement. After drinking the magic blood, the familiar feeling happened again. John tried his best to control his power, but the overflowing power kept changing things in the basement. Flames emanated from his body, and the flames turned into ferocious fire dragons roaring continuously. After a while, John seemed to be pulled out of the water. Casting a cleansing spell on himself, John looked at his illusion spell, and the original level 4 illusion spell became a level 5. Even Aurors don't have this level of disillusionment curse. Maybe some elite Aurors can compare. Ding, the magic blood is over. Acquire the blessing of invisible beast characteristics: foresight, invisibility, insight, profit. Foresight, foresee what will happen within 10 minutes, stealth. Greatly increase the invisibility. Whole view, increased field of vision, increased sensitivity to things. Prophet, awakening prophecy talent, probabilistic trigger prophecy. John stared at the acquired characteristics, which were the same as the fire dragon last time, all 4. He stared at the last prophet, but he didn't expect to be able to acquire such a heaven-defying skill. If Harry Potter's most famous prophecy is to be said, it must be the prophecy that defeated Voldemort. Sybil Trelawney once prophesied, "He who has the power to defeat the Dark Lord enters, born in the house of those who have resisted him 3 times, born at the end of July." It was because of this prophecy that Voldemort pointed the finger at Harry. Because of this prophecy, the greatest miracle in the wizarding world was born. Harry survived the death curse. It can be said that without prophecy, Voldemort would not have been defeated, and Harry would not have become the savior. Divination is right. Somewhat fortunate that he chose divination, John tried to use his foresight. Colorful lights appeared in his eyes, and the scenes in front of him were moving forward quickly. Near the end, he saw Watson Wake screaming, "Dad, something happened!" This scene made John's heart sink, and he opened the door to the basement. Watson Wake was lying on the door to eavesdrop, and he fell straight in when the door opened. In order to maintain his father's majesty, he pretended nothing had happened, unwrapped the chocolate frog and put it in his mouth as if nothing had happened. "John, did you have any crafts born this time?" Watson kept peeking at the basement with his eyes. The owl that John transformed last time made him show off for a long time. When he saw the lifelike big dog, his eyes lit up. "John, it should be fine to put this thing as a decoration in the living room." John was a little absent-minded. He stared at Watson, not understanding that he would see Watson screaming in his vision. Watson Wake worked hard to move the big dog up, and John followed behind worriedly. 10 minutes passed quickly, and Watson Wake didn't mean to have an accident. Could something be wrong? John stroked his chin, where Watson was still eating chocolate frogs. Watson has almost collected the wizard cards, but Dharma Alex Belby's cards can't survive. Since Dharma Alex was awarded the Order of Merlin, the Chocolate Frog Company has made his cards. Mrs. Wick came over and frowned when she saw her husband eating chocolate without restraint. Eat again, be careful not to get sick. Turning a deaf ear to Mrs. Wick's words, Watson patted his stomach and laughed loudly. I have an iron stomach here, how could? Before the words fell, Watson felt a pain in his teeth. He accidentally bit down on it forcefully, and the scream resounded throughout the house. This scene was exactly the same as what John saw. He looked at Dad speechlessly, thinking he had bitten his tongue. But the truth is not so simple. Watson Wick, tooth decay. After checking Mrs. Wick, she sneered, aren't you an iron stomach? Watson still wanted to be stubborn, pointed to his mouth and said, what does tooth decay have to do with the stomach? Still dare to be stubborn. Mrs. Wick directly raised her hand and pinched Watson's swollen cheek, causing Watson to scream again in pain. I can only extract my teeth. After delivering the notice indifferently, Mrs. Wick rolled her eyes coquettishly at her husband. He is no longer a child, and he still has tooth decay. John also had a look of disbelief. How many chocolate frogs did Dad eat at home? At first he wondered how many there were, until he saw the chocolate frog boxes that filled the utility room. Father, let me tell you something, you deserve your tooth decay. John suddenly understood Mrs. Wick's indifference, which was simply asking for it. Watson Wake needs to go to the dentist to have a tooth extracted. It is well known that dentistry in Europe is very profitable, and it is rumored that a dentist can even own his own golf course after retirement. Unable to drive because of a toothache, Mrs. Wick personally drove Watson to have his tooth extracted. John also went there, and he happened to be going to Knockturn Alley. Chapter 94 Granger Dental Clinic and Lord Silverhand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Old Dutton Clinic just passed by. Shut up, it's you who said that old Dutton pulled his teeth like he was killing a sheep. When Watson Wake saw his wife driving, he immediately became very vigilant. After passing the Old Dutton dental office, he unconsciously clutched his pockets. Mrs. Wick looked impatient, very different from her usual dignified image. Watson felt that the seat was a little sticky, so he reached out and took out a fashion magazine from under it. It said that Louis Vuitton launched a new fashion item, and his toothache face suddenly collapsed. Tooth extraction is small, but buying a bag is big. The car ended up in Oxford Street, and Watson knew what was doomed to his wallet. The wife, who had vowed to pull out his own tooth, turned around and got out of the car stepping on high heels and leaving the father and son looking at each other in dismay. Let's find a clinic to extract the tooth. John watched his father struggle from the passenger seat to the driver's seat, and he was very skeptical. Are you sure you can drive? Or let you come? Can your magic help me pull out my teeth? Watson thought I can't control my wife or your son. John shrugged, wondering how long the bank statement would be in the mail tomorrow. The father and son drove around London and finally came to a dentist's office. Granger. It has the same surname as Hermione. John glanced at the name, and thought what a coincidence. If it was a mobile phone, he would definitely take a photo for Hermione. Entering the clinic is not big, and there are several children and adults in the clean and simple waiting area. Europeans spend a lot of money on teeth every year, and one of the children screamed in pain, which made people upset. John and Watson were sitting there waiting. A young woman who was waiting alone saw Watson's calm and successful career. Her eyes lit up. She struck up a conversation with Watson, approached him intentionally and said, "Your child is so handsome, did he eat too much candy?" That she had just divorced. How could she be willing to stay alone in a vacant room in her fiery years? Watson had the appearance of a standard British gentleman, and this kind of appearance was very popular. The calm man made the young woman wink like silk. Her eyes seemed to be emitting electricity. Seeing that Watson was silent, she immediately shifted her target and prepared to follow John's route. "Little handsome boy, it seems that your father is not in a good mood today." John glanced at her and said lightly, "You can't speak even if your teeth are decayed." The young woman was a little confused. At this time, a person came to the waiting area. When the man saw the young woman, he immediately showed a headache, and then he was a little surprised when he saw John next to him. "I remember you are, John, do you remember me? I am Hermione's father." Mr. Granger walked quickly. He didn't have the ridiculously high hairline like middle-aged men in his country. His thick hair let John know who Hermione inherited it from. "Are you here to see Hermione?" Mr. Granger thought he was looking for Hermione. John bowed slightly with a smile, and said, "Hi Mr. Granger, is this your clinic?" "I didn't come to see Hermione, it was my father, he cavities." John pointed to his father, and Watson looked very unhappy with a straight face. In fact, he had a toothache, and now he opened his mouth and felt woodpeckers tapping on his teeth. The so-called acquaintance is easy to handle. Mr. Granger enthusiastically brought the two in. "Just looking at his appearance, it seems that he is running away more." The young woman in the waiting area watched the two good men leave with resentment. These days, the good men belong to other people. Don't wonder why young women are looking for married men. After all, this kind of thing is quite common in this part of Europe. One step is in place: not only have multiple sons, but also find a mature man. Why not do it? Mr. Granger, who entered inside, was relieved. He smiled bitterly. "She comes to the clinic every day to strike up a conversation with me." After finishing speaking, he looked around with some guilt, and whispered, "Don't tell my wife, she minds these things very much." Watson immediately gave him a knowing look, patted Mr. Granger on the shoulder, and said with deep understanding, "No way, sometimes a man who is too good is also a kind of trouble." These words made the two of them cherish each other, and immediately became good friends. John glanced at the two old men. "Narcissistic, right? Dad, your teeth don't hurt anymore." Unable to bear the friendship between two old men, John reminded his father. Watson clutched his cheek. It hurt so much." Mr. Granger worked on Watson's teeth, and John wandered aimlessly through the clinic. "Pick up a newspaper, which reports on the things in the Bear Country. The once well-deserved big brother of the world is now in turmoil after undergoing a split." John muttered to himself, "It seems that Grandpa has also been involved in these things." He remembered that his grandfather had some reputation in the local area, and it may be from the government level to win over him, hoping to ask him to stabilize the local situation. Shaking his head, John looked at the newspaper. A fluffy brown head came over, and after seeing John, her face showed surprise. "John." John turned his head and saw Hermione running towards her with a ridiculously thick book in her arms. The book was placed on the table, and there was a dull sound when it came into contact with the table. "Why are you here? You should tell me." Hermione couldn't help complaining that she had invited several friends to her home, but it seems that the Muggle world is not attractive to wizards, and they have never been there. She was a little envious of the Weasleys' burrow, which was the real fun. John pointed to his father, who was pulling his teeth, and said helplessly, "My father ate too much chocolate, and now his teeth are decayed. If you have a wizard card from Dharma Alex Belby, you'd better give him one." Hermione blinked. Sometimes she really wondered how Mr. Wick could have a child like John. "Let's not talk about this. Do you want to preview the textbook for the next grade?" Miss Know-It-all would only stop studying when she was on an adventure. Hermione's eyes were bright, and she felt that John must have previewed too. John wiped his cold sweat, coughed twice and said, "Actually, some things don't need to be so anxious. Although I have blessings, I can't bear to read books 18 hours a day." King of Gryffindor, so terrifying. Hermione thought for a while, and she was disappointed. "Yes, you are so smart." No. John waved his hands hastily, and explained, "Knowledge is interoperable. When you understand the levitation curse, you will be able to understand the flying curse faster." As John said, he made a demonstration for her and took out the lilies that were a little lackluster in the vase. "Infuse magic into a lily, which reblooms, and its petals come to life." Handing the lily to Hermione, he chuckled and said, "Magic is the source, we need to understand it. As long as you understand these, you will find that everything becomes simple." Holding the lily, Hermione hesitated and asked slyly, "History of magic?" "Probably not. Little old girl, it's easy to kill the world when you chat like this." John saw the corner of Hermione's mouth smirking, and knew that it was Hermione's intention. He grinded his back molars up and down, and he was actually played by a little girl. After Watson Wake had his teeth pulled out, his relationship with Mr. Granger developed rapidly. The intimacy of the two makes one can't help but suspect that these two old men have a second life. John, I decided to live in London for a few days, and it happened that Wendell invited me to play golf. Watson was so good that he called Mr. Granger by name, which made John even more suspicious that the two old men would not have any passion in the collision, would they? The outside world has always said that they are from a corrupt country, shouldn't they? But staying in London is also good, saving John some effort. He happened to be heading to Knockturn Alley, which was more in line with his expectations. Silverhand's Johnny store, this shop that popped up last year, quickly developed into a big shop that replaced Bogenbach in just 1 year. Mundungus always felt that he was indispensable, even more so than the silver-handed lord who had never appeared before. With such a state of mind, while he burst out with % energy, he gradually regarded himself as the master. Shelby, you stinky bastard, I better get out of there. That what Mundungus was most dissatisfied with was Tommy Shelby. That guy was the security captain who came down from the air, and he didn't give Mundungus any face on weekdays. This made Mundungus very annoyed, and even wanted to drive Tangme away. Tangme glanced coldly at Mundungus. This shady thief dared to yell at him, stupid guy. The development of Johnny the Silverhand is all due to the connections of that lord, otherwise, such a big cake. The big shots of the Ministry of Magic and the pureblood families will not let it go. Too bad Mundungus doesn't seem to know this. He yelled like a monkey in a suit. At this time, a person walked in from outside. Mundungus was still angry, and turned his head to stare at the person viciously. A silver mask came into view. The green robe was decorated with gorgeous lace, and the slender body was matched with a slim waistcoat suit. On the clothes, the golden watch chain is elegant and extravagant. Mundungus stared at the people who came. It is not uncommon to see these mysterious people in Knockturn Alley. He said angrily, what do you want? What? That the expression under the silver mask was not clear, but Mundungus could hear the understatement and the slightest bit of disdain in his tone. This made Mundungus yell, get out of my shop without buying anything. Your shop? Mundungus, you seem to have forgotten whose place this is. This voice was somewhat familiar. Mundungus recalled it. His small eyes widened, and he screamed, you are Lord Johnny Silverhand? Chapter 95 Lupine and Fenrir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It seems you remember me, Mundungus. Under the silver mask, John's tone was cold, and he approached Mundungus' face door so that Mundungus could see his eyes through the hole in the mask. Then, why don't you come out and salute me? Mundungus saw that the eyes inside the mask turned into dragon-like eyes, and a sense of coercion fell on him. Mundungus' body trembled uncontrollably, and he rolled out screaming and knelt down in front of John. Honorable Lord Silverhand, Mundungus Fletcher sends you his sincere and most respectful greetings. The little bit of complacency and arrogance that was originally born has now become nothingness under the appearance of the silver hand. Beads of sweat dripped from Mundungus' ridiculous nose, his voice trembled in fear, and he showed a flattering smile. Your Excellency Silverhand, all this is a misunderstanding. Misunderstand? John walked into the Johnny Silverhand store indifferently, and the wizards of the security team tensed up. They were werewolves, and they could feel that the people in front of them were very dangerous. They looked at their captain, and saw Tommy Shelby walking up to John, bowing respectfully. Welcome back, Your Excellency. As the only person who has seen the real face of Johnny Silverhand, the contact of the store is done by Tangme. He was even more surprised by John's current state. That faint coercion gave him a sense of oppression facing the superior. He said respectfully, we have been waiting for your arrival. The security team saw that their captain was like this, so naturally their magic wands would not be aimed at their boss. It seems you like this place. John is very satisfied with the current Johnny Silverhand store. Mundungus and Tangme are in charge of the inside and outside, and they run the place very well. The mysterious Silverhand returned, and all the employees in the store came out. The security team was expanded to 10 men, and in addition to the original 4 werewolves, a new team of Remus Lupin and 4 other retired hitmen was added, including Tangme. The 10-member team has a fighting power comparable to that of an aura from the Ministry of Magic. Mundungus has also hired a staff member to run the business in his absence. The boy was Kim Led-Isley, a big boy who came to work on vacation. Kim Led-Isley was tall and handsome, and the handsome blonde and blue-eyed guy stood next to Mundungus. A sense of ridiculous humor emerged spontaneously. "Dear Silverhand, this is last year's income. Most of it has been deposited in Gringotts, and some of the warehouse is used for business purchases." Mundungus took out the ledger. John's refining alone could not supply such a large shop. He also purchased goods from various places, and some of the shady things were also passed through his hands. John glanced briefly, and he knew Mundungus was greedy for money. "Mundungus, I don't want you erased forever in Johnny the Silverhand." His simple words frightened Mundungus to the ground, and he said in fear, "Your Excellency Silverhand, I swear, I absolutely did not. Your oath is too cheap." John said lightly. Mundungus was pulled by a strange force, and his whole body floated towards John, with a hand around his neck. Mundungus struggled to call for help with his feet off the ground. His wand flew out as soon as he took it out, and even a wizard would die if he couldn't breathe. The sense of suffocation quickly invaded the brain, and the fear of death made Mundungus regret it. "That's enough, Your Excellency Silverhand." Remus Lupin couldn't stand it at first. He took out his wand and pointed it at John, yelling, "You should let him go." Tangmi drew out his wand and said coldly, "Remus, you should recognize your identity. Let him go." "Remus, do you know where all the money he's embezzled these days comes from?" Pressing Tangmi's magic wand, John said calmly, "I have set aside a fund for every little wizard who is persecuted by the curse. With this fund, even a poor little wizard can have a bottle of wolf every month. The poison is drinkable." Lupin's face changed. John's hand was slightly strained, and Mundungus was about to suffocate to death. He said indifferently, "But this man, he has been greedy for more than half of the ink from that fund. Do you know what this means?" Lupin opened his mouth, and finally dropped his wand. "No, Remus, save me." Mundungus groaned, despairing as Lupin lowered his wand. He didn't expect Johnny Silverhand to know all about his little actions, and the most deadly thing was the hatred eyes of those werewolves. Lupin has been a werewolf since he was a child. He can understand that werewolves are discriminated against and cannot even get a job when they grow up. One of Mundungus' greedy gnat was killing a young werewolf wizard. How could they not hate it? Just as Mundungus was about to die, the ruthless hand loosened. He fell to the floor, body twitching, mouth and nose sucking greedily for air. The deep and indifferent voice sounded again, "This is the first time, Mundungus. I hope you understand that what I gave you is not little." "I understand, Your Excellency Silverhand, I will return everything immediately." Mundungus didn't dare to ask extravagantly. He hugged John's leg and swore. Delicate wandless spellcasting, coupled with that terrifying power, Mundungus couldn't think of anything else. He just wanted to keep his job. The wizards of the security team who didn't take it seriously at first, now understand why the powerful Tangmi respects this Lord Silverhand so much. They put away their arrogance and humility wraps around their knees. John killed monkeys and respected wolves with one hand. And conquered everyone. The young Kim Led-Isley looked at John with complicated eyes. An astonishing mind. Although Jean Led-Isley was recruited by Mundungus, his kindness to Mundungus is only reserved for his superiors and subordinates, but Johnny Silverhand was different. He didn't expect that someone would take out the treasury for the cursed little wizards. This kind of mind made the righteous Kim Led-Isley full of admiration. Although he was only a holiday worker, Kim Led-Isley felt that he could learn a lot from this Lord Silverhand. Leading a team requires both kindness and power. Giving free wolfbane potion to underage werewolves is kindness, so punishing Mundungus is power. Nocturne Alley has never been peaceful. After John solved the ink corruption problem and announced the ownership of the store, trouble came to the door. A group of uninvited guests walked into the door of the store. They had primitive taste on their bodies, and their rough costumes looked like speeding gangsters. Lupin saw the leader, took a deep breath, and found it difficult to keep calm. Tangmi stood on John's left and said in a low voice, "Fenrir Greyback, the leader of the werewolf community, he covets wolfbane potion." A few simple words explained the relationship. John stroked the wand around his waist. It seemed that this group of people came from bad intentions. Glancing at Lupin, who was taking a deep breath, he felt a little strange, and asked lightly, "Lupin, what's the matter?" Lupine didn't expect John to notice his little movements. He closed his eyes, calmed himself down, and said, I was bitten by Fenrir when I was 4 years old. He is a bastard who likes to bite children. These words made John narrow his eyes dangerously. No matter what society it is in, it is the most despicable thing to do to a child. Fenrir stepped into the Johnny Silverhand store and said arrogantly, I need to see your master here. John came out and said lightly, you better have something to do. It seems to be you, the legendary Silverhand. Fenrir approached John, and his nose moved. John was taller than his peers. Fenrir didn't see anything wrong, but just smelled it, and said bloodthirstily, you'd better give me the wolfsbane potion, or I will kill you. Rip your throat. He is a despicable person who specially bites some children and trains them to become his subordinates with hatred. He is a cruel man who steals and kills for food and sometimes attacks people when the moon is not full. Fenrir can be said to do all kinds of evil. Threatening a shopkeeper is simply too common. For the threat, there was a sneer on John's face under the mask. John said unhurriedly, you seem to have misunderstood one thing. Huh? Fenrir frowned. John approached the ugly and ferocious face, and said lightly, only the strong can dominate the weak. Fenrir bared his fangs and was about to bite John's neck off. In the next second, there was a scream accompanied by blood spatter. Chapter 97 The Invincible Man and Shafik's Concession. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Two figures appeared in the room, one sitting and the other standing. Who are you? Sean Shafik yelled in a sharp voice. He did this not to be stupid, but to wake up the portraits on the walls. This calculating old vulture knew something was wrong when he saw the two of them. There is a magic barrier in the territory of the Shafik family, and they entered the manor quietly. It is impossible to chat with this old guy. His voice didn't wake up the portrait. And the previous head of Shafik who hung on the wall was soundly asleep at this time. No matter how much Sean made any movement, the portrait did not move. The house elf, who was bullied all day, seemed to be deaf, and had no intention of coming. Shafik Manor was eerily quiet. The two people in the room just watched Sean quietly like this. John, who was sitting on the sofa, turned the emerald ring on his left hand. He looked at Sean calmly, and put his index finger to his mouth to make a silent movement. Shoo, please be quiet. Sean's palms were sweating, and he wanted to strike first, so he grabbed the eagle's head on the cane and pulled it out forcefully. The king is the first to capture the thief, and he attacks the man on the sofa. Stupefy. Expelliarmus. Two voices sounded at the same time. Sean was hit by the red light, and the wand in his hand came out. Just as the wand was about to fall to the ground, it suddenly changed direction and landed in the hands of the man with the silver mask. Sean's complexion changed drastically, and his eyes were fixed on the man. The man didn't use a wand, which was subtle wandless casting. Casting without a wand? I don't remember having such a powerful enemy. That was once. Johnny Silverhand greets you. John caressed the handle on the wand casually. The wood was painted silver, and Shafik was too picky. With a slight effort in his fingers, he broke his hand from the wand. Picking up the elm wand, John casually pointed at Sean, and said indifferently, you shouldn't have shot at my shop, Sean Shafik. Sean said sharply, I don't know what you're talking about. It's okay, I don't need your answer. John tilted his head. His deep eyes fell on Sean through the silver mask. At that moment, Sean felt a pressure like a predator. Tangmi, wearing a white mask, came out and asked respectfully, my lord, I can do it for you. Okay. John replied calmly. I'm a pure blood, you can't attack a pure blood, the Ministry of Magic will not let you go. Pure bloods are no dark wizards in Nocturne Alley, and the Ministry of Magic doesn't turn a blind eye. Just when Sean Shafik was still threatening his pure blood identity, Tangmi pulled out his wand and said viciously, Cruciate. The chattering mouth was closed in pain. Sean couldn't speak. He fell to the ground and twitched like a stranded sea fish. You can pretend you don't know anything. Fiddled with the elm wand in his spare time, John chuckled and said, but you and I are both smart people, right? That the first period of pain passed, and Sean's skinny cheeks became bloodless at this moment. With trembling lips, he said viciously, I will destroy your shop. It seems that you are a tough guy. John leaned his head on the somewhat hard sofa. Tangmi waved his wand again expressionlessly. and the second period of pain lasted for a full half an hour. John stuffed the zongzi he had developed into Sean's wand, and he raised his hand to signal Tang Mi to stop. Sean's sweat had already formed a pool of water under his body, his face was terrified, and his eyes were no longer shrewd. "What exactly do you want?" "What do I want?" John shook his head, with some hatred in his tone. He said indifferently, "I should be the one who said this to you. Sean, tell me, what do you want?" Sean was taken aback by the rhetorical question. He didn't understand what John meant. "It seems that you are not as shrewd as the legend says, and you didn't even say a word about you to me, which made me very unhappy. Surrender all your possessions in Nocturne Alley, this is your punishment." John sighed, and he casually raised his wand, mercilessly delivering the sentence. "There are only three things, your choice, death or surrender." Shaoan understood that this person wanted to submit to him. As the Shafik parent of the 28 saints, Sean glared and roared, "Impossible. Pity." John's voice was drawn out, and he said in a low voice, "The soul is back." White smoke rose from the skin, and Shaoan wanted to extinguish it in horror, but he couldn't. His soul was pulled out bit by bit, and this terrifying scene made Sean, who was still stubborn just now, scream. John stepped forward, and the wand carved a spell on the heart of Sean's soul. "Get out of here, Sean Shafik, and never come back." He whispered in Sean's ear. Sean's soul couldn't move, the engraved marks became hot, and his screams became louder. After finishing everything, John raised his hand to hold the soul, and stuffed him back into Sean Shafik's body. Sean, who returned to his body, covered his heart and rolled and screamed at the first moment. He tore off his clothes. There was no wound on his heart, but it was hot as if a red-hot iron had been put on it. "Let go of your fingers," and Sean's wand just fell casually like this. John turned and left, leaving Sean behind. Sean, who was full of hatred, immediately picked up his wand and wanted to point it at John, but he found that he couldn't lift his hand, and the curse on his lips disappeared. He cast a curse at the sofa in disbelief. His body was obviously normal, as if being chained. He wanted to curse in disbelief, but his head hurt. It was as if a knife had been stabbed in his heart, and the intense pain nearly suffocated him. It was a long time before he got up from the cheap carpet. He walked to the mirror and tore off his clothes. A line of words appeared in his heart. "A person who cannot be an enemy." Looking down, there was nothing on the chest. Sean collapsed again. He couldn't even say a foul word to Johnny Silverhand now. "Do not." In great despair, he smashed everything hysterically, and finally passed out in the manor. In Shafik manor, all guards are knocked down. The loyal elf was tucked under the bed, and Lupine, with 3 security guards, looked up towards the manor. Nothing happened inside. After waiting for a while, there was the sound of smashing the manor, and Johnny Silver led Tang Mi down. Solved. Sean Shafik was very generous. He volunteered all of Nocturne Alley's properties as a gift. Johnny Silver-handed walked by, and Lupine didn't know what he had said to that old vulture of Sean Shafik, but he could tell it wasn't a good thing. The young clerk Kim Led Isley followed up and asked curiously, "Sir, how did you make Shafik apologize?" John's footsteps stopped, and there was a hint of ridicule in his voice. "I gave him an unrefusable condition." This answer made Kim Lad Isley frown, thinking about what kind of tempting conditions could make an ancient pureblood family give in. Tang Mi had a helpless expression on his face when he heard what his boss said. If you can't raise your head in front of Johnny Silverhand for a lifetime and call it attractive, then you really can't refuse. He even doubted that anyone else could compare to his boss in the study of the soul. The miraculous ghost spell, which makes people lose their souls without scars, is even more evil than the killing spell. At the same time, Tang Mi was also thankful that he was not that rigid aura, otherwise it would be a terrible thing to be an enemy of the boss. Walking out of the anti-apparition area, John put his hand on Tang Mi's shoulder. Tang Mi also wanted to complain about this point. His boss even has such evil things as ghost spells, but he can't apparate. This made him wonder if apparition was so difficult to learn. Waving his wand, Tang Mi apparat away with John. The rest of the wizards followed suit, thinking they were bosses too lazy to apparate. After all, you said that you can't apparate with this ability, so you feel a bit like an actor. The next day, the Shafik family withdrew from Nocturne Alley, and all the properties in their hands were acquired by Johnny Silverhands. Not only that, the Shafik family even gave up London and went abroad to the country where the current situation was turbulent. Some people said that Shafik wanted to take advantage of the Muggle turmoil to make a fortune, while others said that the old vulture wanted to intervene in the political arena to run for the Minister of Magic. Anyway, Knockturn Alley has changed. The former Dark King of Knockturn Alley went to the ocean, and Knockturn Alley has a new king. The forces that were still coveting Johnny the Silverhand retreated one after another at this moment. Even Rufus Scrimgeour, who thought there would be a period of anxiety, was dumbfounded. Just one night, let Shafik give up, that he scoffed at all the words and the rumors. No one knew better than him the old vulture Sean Shafik's business in Knockturn Alley, and that amount was something that old vulture would never give up. Then there is only one truth: Shafik was exiled. Lord Johnny Silverhand, who appeared suddenly, exiled Shafik, one of the 28 holy clans, in just one night. Rufus Scrimgeour felt he had to reassess his relationship with Johnny Silverhand, the new king of Knockturn Alley. Lord Johnny Silverhand has become a legend. Chapter 98: Lucius and the Silverhand Letter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Malfoy Manor. Lucius Malfoy hasn't been having a great time lately. He threatened the other Hogwarts trustees and forced them to sign Dumbledore's suspension. He was expelled from the school board after Dumbledore's return for this incident. That's bad for the Malfoys, and even worse for the Malfoys' dark magic items. Almost every old pureblood family has two things: one is a house elf, and the other is a dark magic item. This is the case with the Malfoy family. It can even be said that the Malfoy family, which once followed Voldemort, is full of black magic props. Voldemort didn't trust the Malfoy family, but he also treated Lucius very preferentially because of the ancient family and those dark magic props. That damned Arthur Weasley was staring at Malfoy Manor right now, and Lucius didn't know that his son had revealed the dark magic vault. He was really afraid that one day Arthur Weasley would kick open the gate of Malfoy Manor and take the whole Malfoy family to Azkaban. Lucius wanted to sell it, but the Bogenbach antique shop with which he had an important connection has long since disappeared. He thought of Sean Shafik. That old vulture must be interested in these things, but that person is notoriously greedy, and he would lower the price so that there is no profit. So Lucius thought about it for a long time. It's just that he didn't expect that when he hesitated for a while, when he went to Shafik's house again, the place was already empty. Damn Weasley, damn Harry Potter. Lucius slammed his fist on the banister, annoyed and angry. Shut up your temper, Lucius. When Mrs. Malfoy saw him, Narcissa raised her chin slightly, looking very proud. Narcissa, Arthur Weasley will come running any moment. Lucius just wanted to vent his temper, but he had to hold back because of his wife's arrival. I had no choice but to grab the railing with helpless and furious hands. You can hide the black magic item, or you can sell it. Lucius, don't show cowardice in front of Draco. Mrs. Malfoy approached Lucius. Her gaze fell across the window to her son practicing magic there. She could feel that her son had changed a lot at Hogwarts. Although he was well behaved in the past, he became a crying nose who loved to be called Dad because of his parents. Now Draco is completely different. Even daughters of the eternally pure black family become sentimental when they become mothers. Narcissa was relieved by Draco's change, and she also comforted her husband. Lucius was a little irritable, his voice amplified a little, and he said, "Of course I know, it's just that Arthur Weasley seems to know about my warehouse, and he swore that day that he would let me spend the rest of my life in Azkaban. I want to sell black magic props now." Bogenbach was captured and taken to Azkaban, and that old vulture, Sean Shafik, moved with his family. I don't know who to turn to. Malfoy's family is not short of money. What he needs is a place where he can temporarily keep his belongings. The former Bogenbach is one, and the sold items can be bought back at the original price, which is a tacit understanding between the two. Now Silverhand's Johnnies had banned Borgenbach, and he'd heard that the people there seemed to be working closely with the Ministry of Magic. Lucius didn't dare to bet that if the other party reported back to the Ministry of Magic, he would squat in Azkaban and kiss the Dementor every day. Just thinking about that scene makes me shudder. Narcissa saw his concerns, and said, "You have to try. I don't want our son to have a father squatting in Azkaban." Lucius' complexion changed several times. At this moment, a long-eared black owl arrived at Malfoy Manor. The letter fell on the windowsill. Lucius glanced at it, but didn't pick it up. Subconsciously, he thought that Dobby the house elf would pick it up and bring it to him carefully. However, he forgot about being plotted against by Harry. After realizing it, he put on a dark face and stomped heavily on the floor in retaliation. This is a special letter. There was no name on the letter, just black sealing wax with a silver handprint on it. Lucius thought of the current king of Knockturn Alley, Johnny Silverhand. The sign on it was the same as that of the Johnny Silverhand store, and he was inexplicably nervous. As soon as I thought of Johnny Silverhands, they sent me letters, although I knew it was a coincidence, I was unavoidably a little uneasy. Opening the letter, his complexion changed several times. Narcissa took everything into her eyes, and she came over and picked up the letter and read it. Like Lucius, Narcissa became a little puzzled and asked, "Do you know Johnny Silverhand?" Lucius shook his head and said with a strange expression, "We've never met before." The husband and wife looked at each other, and the letter stated that they were willing to provide a hiding place for the Malfoy family's dark magic props. Not only that, Johnny Silverhand is also happy to help Lucius return to the position of director of Hogwarts. Each of these things is risky. Why is Johnny Silverhand willing to help? The couple couldn't figure it out. Lucius hesitated and said, "Could it be, he is?" His lips moved, and Lucius looked subconsciously at his left hand. Narcissa's face turned serious. "Regarding the Death Eaters, no matter who they are, they will be sent to Azkaban once they are discovered. Besides the Death Eaters, Lucius really couldn't figure out why Johnny Silverhand wanted to help him." Staring at the letter, the husband and wife fell into deep thought. Draco Malfoy didn't know that his parents were facing a choice, and he agreed with John's words very much at this moment. Only one's own strength is the most glorious. He pointed at a human-shaped target, as if thinking of it as Harry Potter, and the spell was continuously cast on the target. After experiencing the team's cold eyes and his father's dismissal, he completely transformed. Even after Gore and Crabbe came, they only became sparring partners. Being replenished by the deficient little wizard fund, Mundungus felt as uncomfortable as being cut with a knife. Seeing the strength of Johnny Silverhand, the wizards, who were hindered by the Shafik family's face before, can finally patronize them freely. In a short period of time, the turnover of the Johnny Silverhand store doubled several times. Kim Lettisley's bright smile never stopped, and the sound of Garen colliding kept ringing out. John has prepared an office for himself, and he is sitting in it, holding letters from various parties in his hand. "Thank you, Riddle." Reaching out and petting the long-eared black owl, John fed it a piece of dried fish. There were a lot of letters. Most of them were from the wharf of the Dark Wizards of Knockturn Alley, asking about the new rules. The Shafik family used to control these things, but now there is a new king. They are very knowledgeable. Of course, there will be some ignorant ones. At this time, John will give them a condition that they cannot refuse, such as sending them to Azkaban or being bitten by a werewolf. These people are quick to be honest. Before doing anything, John will send a letter of condolence to those people. This letter is also known as a Silverhand letter. The content of the letter is very simple. It is to tell them that they regret not being friends, and then there will be a big silver handprint on it. Those who received this kind of letter would either roll over to show their friendship the next day, or disappear in Knockturn Alley. Under such awe, everyone knew that Johnny Silverhand was more decisive than the previous Sean Shafik. A letter from Malfoy Manor caught John's attention, and he opened the envelope. The content inside made the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he said with a smile, "Lucius Malfoy is a sensible person, but the Death Eaters have to deal with it well." Knowing that Lucius is a Death Eater, but Lucius is a very impure Death Eater, he showed off his might during Voldemort's powerful period, but after Voldemort's downfall, he was the most active among the first people to distance himself from the relationship. This is very much in line with Slytherin. Strong followers, good calculations, wise and safe. After Voldemort's resurrection, Lucius will return to Voldemort's side. But he is definitely not a diehard. The real Voldemort loyalists are all staying in Azkaban, and these outsiders are at best the little guys who are waving the flag and shouting behind. Make good use of this identity. John touched his chin. The identity of Johnny Silverhand is now an influential figure. As a place to focus on, John will naturally not only be in Knockturn Alley. Diagon Alley is the big head, where wizards all over the country go. Putting the mask back on, John went downstairs. All wizards who see that mask salute with awe and reverence. This scene also fell into the eyes of the surveillance aurors. They knew that a guy who was more troublesome than Sean Shafik was born. Chapter 99 Apparition and the Daily Prophet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The most important thing to remember is the 3 Ds, destination, determination and deliberation. As you proceed, focus on the object, resolve to occupy the desired space, and move with deliberation. Tommy Shelby is a master of the apparition spell, and his level, John estimates, should be level 5. In this desolate jungle, John is learning the apparition spell. To be precise, this spell is divided into 2 parts, apparating and apparating. The difference between the two is that one disappears at the starting point, and the other appears at the end. You must master the 2 steps well. Otherwise you will have a split situation. Just like now, John looked at his missing ring finger, a little speechless. You did such a good job that someone even took their own head off while apparating. Tang Mi took by Xian to treat John, and the boss's secret mission turned out to be to make up lessons. Tang Mi felt that if he hadn't become an Auror, he might be able to teach at Hogwarts. The fingers were connected, and John moved them. The split feels less like being cut and more like being divided. In addition to being convenient, the apparition charm actually doesn't feel good. It's like forcing people into a narrow pipe, and squeezing them out of the pipe when they come out. After John tried many times, the apparition charm finally appeared on the list of spells. Thinking of continuing to level up with the risk of splitting, John decided to use any point to level up decisively. The apparition spell at level 2 feels very different. John tried it right away. Don't rush the apparition curse. It took me a few weeks to learn it before I succeeded once. Remember the 3D principle, that is. Tang Mi was still thinking about it, when a piercing sound suddenly sounded in his ears. He stared blankly at John appearing from 100 meters away, with no physical damage. John was slightly dizzy after landing, but it was still within acceptable range. His body did not appear to be separated, which meant that he had successfully learned the spell. Using it again, he appeared next to Tang Mi. Although the position was slightly shifted, it was not bad. Seeing Tang Mi's stunned look, John smiled and said, "What did you just say?" Just pretend I didn't say it." This is the first time Tang Mi discovered the gap between mortals and the proud Son of Heaven. At the beginning, my own body was separated more than a dozen times, and the most serious one almost lost my leg. As a result, when it came to John, it was just a slight separation, and he mastered the apparition curse in a day. This really made Tang Mi envious. After learning the apparition charm, John finally doesn't have to commute by car every day. Mundungus's floor network in a nearby house was blocked, probably because he owed too much money. This guy is really penny pinching. Even though his salary is 300 galleons now, he still makes himself look like a beggar. It can only be said that wizards have always had unique tastes, and John will not interfere too much. Glancing at Tang Mi beside him, John felt that he might be able to change his clothes. This dress has probably been worn for a while, and the mending on it doesn't suit the style of the Johnny Silverhand store. It can only be said that Tang Mi is afraid of poverty. In the year when he became a werewolf, he was often so poor that he couldn't afford to eat. He found a place to change Tang Mi's clothes, and John also sent some to the security team. The original beggar gang meeting instantly turned into a supermodel scene. There is also Remus Lupin John, who is about to leave, and he doesn't favor one over the other. This moved Lupin very much. In fact, Lupin had received the invitation before Lockhart resigned, and he chose to postpone his resignation just to get an extra bottle of Wolfsbane. The Wolfsbane potion on the market is not as good as the one inside Johnny Silverhand, and Lupin is desperately trying to stay sane when he can enter Hogwarts to teach students. He saves the monthly bottle of Wolfsbane and pays for the worst quality to last the full moon. Tang Mi also turned a blind eye to him. After all, he was also a werewolf. He knew that Lupine was a very good person, so he chose to bless him. "Thank you, Sir Johnny Silverhand." The security team members rely on their clothes, plus the amulets and rings of spells they are equipped with, so their temperament has become different. "Remus, you are always welcome back here." John knew that the werewolf would not be working in other places for long, so he ordered Mundungus, prepare him 3 bottles of the best Wolfsbane potion. These 3 bottles were regarded as parting gifts, and John didn't ask where he was going. "I will give 100 million to those who leave me." How much can those who stay and work earn in this way? Not 100 million. I understand the applause. Lupin was grateful that, of all the jobs he had, John was the only one who really considered werewolves as colleagues. A copy of the Daily Prophet was sent by an owl, and John picked it up. The headline was about the new king of Diagon Alley. Of course, this kind of thing is generally not said. This editor named Rita Skeeter is notoriously provocative. In her article, she called Johnny Silverhand the second king, comparing him to the second king under the Ministry of Magic. It's a well-written article. John saw something in it that he had never done before. He cut up people and fed them to the fire dragon, and let Nyosho steal Gringotts, he exclaimed. It is simply another great writer after Lockhart. Watching with relish, John even had a feeling that he ruled the magic world. Oh. There's also an exclusive news preview. John sees that Rita Skeeter has the scoop. Uncover the true face of the second king, Johnny Silverhand, whether the person under the mask is a faceless person or a living dead person, so stay tuned. After reading the notice, John himself was a little dumbfounded. Exclusive? Revealed? Why didn't I know? After asking 3 times in a row, John himself didn't know that he had accepted the exclusive invitation. He felt that this was probably Rita Skeeter starting to hunt for enemies out of thin air again, so he didn't care too much. The small dried fish was fed to Riddle, who landed on the table with wide-eyed round eyes, and a beetle was silently landing on the window sill. John stroked Riddle's head and said thoughtfully, public opinion is also an important force. If you control public opinion, you may be able to prepare for emergencies. Don't underestimate public opinion. The internet is still underdeveloped in this era. Many people's knowledge of things comes from newspapers and TV, especially the wizarding world. Only newspapers and magazines are the only way for ordinary wizards to know what is happening in the world. The Daily Prophet, which is firmly in the top spot, has more than % of the public opinion information. There is also the Quibbler, which is also selling well, but it is a pity that many people read it as a joke magazine. John scratched Riddle's head, making it squint comfortably. The beetle at the window flew into the room again, and the candle with eyes lit up on the table. John noticed this scene, and with a wave of his hand, the window closed instantly. The pupils in the eyes dilated to almost fill the eyes, and John glanced over. He was keenly aware of a beetle. The beetle tried to get out through the window. John picked up the copper paperweight on the table and turned it into a bottle. He raised his hand and grabbed the beetle that was trying to escape and stuffed it into the bottle. John stared at the bottle. He saw the beetle had magic in it. Animagus. Thinking of transfiguration, John opened the bottle, and immediately used his wand as the beetle flew out. Reveal. The flying beetle turned into a woman in green clothes in mid-air, weird big curly blonde hair, with a face full of awkward long chin. Luxurious jewel-studded glasses hung crookedly on his face, and his entire face was painted red. Rita Skeeter. John looked at her unexpectedly, feeling a sense of dread. Thankfully I didn't take off my mask, otherwise tomorrow's Daily Prophet headline would be, shocked. Johnny Silverhand is a Hogwarts student. Animagus is hard to guard against. If it weren't for John's insight blessing and the eye of truth that is more sensitive than a looking glass, he probably would have been fooled. The visible Rita Skeeter was full of terror, her eyes unnaturally dark beneath the silver mask. Pointing the wand in John's hand at Rita, he said in a low voice, "Give me a reason not to feed you to the dragon." Dear Sir Johnny Silverhand, all this is a misunderstanding. Rita rubbed her hands together in embarrassment, as if trying to get away with it. John looked at her with a half-smile, and a white light from his wand exploded at Rita's feet. An illegal animagus, if you say such a thing. If the Ministry of Magic knows, it may be a very interesting thing. I was wrong, Mr. Johnny Silverhand, please let me go. Rita was full of fear. She had dug up a lot of information by relying on animagus over the years. If the Ministry of Magic finds out, the senior officials offended by him will definitely send him to Azkaban. She begged for mercy, and a strange color flashed in John's eyes. Really dozed off to send a pillow. Isn't this a good person who controls public opinion? Chapter 100 Gallon Awards and Vigilance at the Museum of Dark Arts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rita Skeeter frantically begged for mercy. She hoped that the man in front of her could give her a way out. Judging from the wandless casting and making herself visible just now, Rita can confirm that she will not be this person's opponent. Don't look at so many outrageous words in the writing. When she was caught, Rita was more cowardly than anyone else. Rita Skeeter, you're a smart guy. John looked down at Rita. He opened the drawer, and there was a golden gallon inside. making Rita mistakenly think that John was going to bribe her. "Help me with something." The expression under the silver mask was unclear, but Rita knew that if she dared to refuse, it would definitely be more painful than going to Azkaban. Soon, there was an additional Lucky Wizard Award in the Daily Prophet, which was kindly sponsored by the Johnny Silverhand store. For this reason, reporter Rita Skeeter publicized the results of her interview in the newspaper. Lord Johnny Silverhand is a kind and amiable person. He established the Little Wizard Foundation to provide free help to the cursed little wizards. Such a generous move has been greatly appreciated by many celebrities in the wizarding world. In addition, the bonus is what makes the Silverhand Johnny store so popular. This thing is like a chocolate frog. Every time you buy a Daily Prophet, you will have a chance to draw a lottery. The sales volume of the Daily Prophet increased a lot in an instant. There are 3 types of Lucky Wizard Awards: the first Gallon Award, the second Sickle Award, and the third Nat Award. A wizard won the sickle on the day of the sale, and 700 sickles was a considerable sum. The Lucky Wizard jackpot is in full swing. An owl is flying to the burrow with a newspaper. Morning, Arthur Weasley picked up the newspaper he subscribed to and looked at the Lucky Wizard Grand Prize scratch that was attached to it. He scratched it open and glanced at it casually. Bang dang. The glass fell to the table, and the milk in it splashed all over him. Molly ran out upon hearing the sound, and just about to get angry, she saw Arthur Weasley turn his head blankly and said, "I've hit it." "What?" Before she could figure out what her husband was doing, Molly was taken aback by Arthur's laugh. Ron got up and grabbed Ban, who was so scared by the laughter that he broke free and ran back to the bed. "George, Daddy crazy." Fred, "Maybe it's probably too much euphoria." The Weasley twins looked at each other, as if to ask each other when it was a prank. Percy has been busy running for the president of the student union this year, and his study tasks are also heavy. When all the children arrived, Mr. Weasley excitedly announced the good things that happened to him. 700 galleons, Merlin's beard. Molly covered her mouth. When did the Weasleys have so much money? She wanted excitedly to hug and kiss Mr. Weasley, but the children were there. "I want to use the money to travel." "What do you think of Egypt?" After winning the lottery, Arthur Weasley wanted to travel. It must be said that his family did not have the habit of saving money. The whole family agreed with this decision, and even Percy, who hadn't given up studying after the holiday, was a little moved. Arthur Weasley just didn't want the third son to be too tired, so he proposed to travel. As the most sensible child, peace of mind does not mean that it does not make people feel distressed. With the approval of the whole family, they started planning the trip. As the person who personally handed out the award, Rita Skeeter didn't understand why such a generous reward should be given to the Weasleys. There was only one printed sheet of the bonus, short of the Weasleys' address. But Rita didn't dare to ask, because she was now being manipulated. In order not to spend the rest of her life in Azkaban, she could only listen to what Johnny Silverhand said. Arthur Weasley, who won the grand prize, temporarily put aside the matter of killing the Malfoy family, and the most important thing is that the family travels neatly. While this gave the Malfoys a respite, Lucius paid a personal visit to Johnny Silverhand. When he saw the eyes under the silver mask, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of person it was. "Lucius Malfoy, I am very glad that you are here." Seeing that his classmate's father still looked mysterious, John added meaningfully, "Even if you are a Death Eater." Lucius' pupils constricted, the arrogance on his face subsided instantly, his heart shook, and he looked at John like a pawn deliberately fished by the Ministry of Magic. An unnatural smile appeared on his pale face, and he pretended not to understand. "I was indeed controlled by a mysterious person with the Imperious Curse, but that doesn't mean I'm—" "Lucius, you don't have to be afraid." John interrupted as he walked towards Lucius. His footsteps were neither light nor heavy, making a sound when they made contact with the ground. Lucius' body was tense, sweat appeared on his forehead, and he was extremely nervous. Coming to Lucius, John grabbed his left hand. At this moment, Lucius's wand was raised, and he saw those mysterious eyes. "I don't mind, on the contrary, I appreciate you." There was a meaningful laugh under the mask, and Lucius felt that there was nothing to hide all his secrets. John glanced at the clenched wand, chuckled and said, "Relax, I won't say it. On the contrary, the reason I can give you everything is not the Death Eaters, nor the Ministry of Magic, but Malfoy." The wand in Lucius' hand was clenched and loosened. After going back and forth 3 times, he finally couldn't hold back anymore, and asked with some trepidation, "What do you want?" John replied without hesitation, "Friend." The simple 2 words made Lucius feel unreal. The Voldemort he followed never said these 2 words. Seeing that he didn't believe it, John handed today's Daily Prophet to Lucius. "It is my sincerity that Arthur Weasley will not trouble you in a short time." The newspaper said the Galleon Awards had been revealed, and it had Arthur Weasley's name on it. Lucius let go of the heart he had been holding so tightly. He stared into John's eyes and asked, "You want me to be your friend, right?" "Lucius, as Malfoy, you should understand the importance of friends better. This is the second connection besides blood. We will help each other. Just as I helped you today, you will help me tomorrow." John swung his hand past a candle, the flame went out, and the candle lit up again as he turned, stretching out his hand to Lucius. John smiled and said, "Isn't it?" Lucius hesitated for a while, held the somewhat young hand, and said in a deep voice, "You are right, Sir Johnny Silverhand, Malfoy is willing to be your friend. The connection between pure-blood families lies in mutual marriage, which makes each pure-blood family have some kinship. These bloodlines are like a big tree growing upwards, and each bloodline is a branch. It's just that these tree branches have withered a little now, and the 28 saints are dead and maimed. They are no longer that powerful. The new king of Knockturn Alley is willing to release the friendship, and Lucius also knows that this is a way to win over, but he has no choice. The position of Hogwarts school trustee is too important. This is the best way to preserve Lucius, who was once a Death Eater. If he can't return to that position, he will be a thorn in the side of the Ministry of Magic, and the Auror will do whatever it takes to make his resume career even better." Lucius agreed, and immediately asked with some doubts, "How do you deal with black magic items?" John smiled mysteriously, and said softly, "Do you know where you can legally own black magic props, other than the Ministry of Magic?" Seeing Lucius' puzzled look, John raised his hand and brushed it in front of him. A line of small green characters appeared in front of Lucius. "Warning about the Museum of the Dark Arts." Lucius didn't know why, so John told him that with this thing, no matter how dangerous you put it in, the Ministry of Magic won't trouble you. This is like, unlicensed ones are called tomb robbery, while those with certificates are called archaeology. This alert to the Dark Arts Museum, John has already applied to the Ministry of Magic. His reasons are very good. People need to know the dangers of black magic items. You can't expect everyone to know what black magic items look like. Then this museum is very necessary. What? Danger? Wrong. How can people understand the danger if it is not dangerous? As for what to exhibit, it's not all under my control. In this case, if 1 or 2 things are missing, no one will say anything. You can lie about theft, or you can say the item was destroyed. That's a good thing, and one that would add another feat to the current Minister of Magic. Fudge. Naturally, the Ministry of Magic has no objection, and the newspapers will also report this matter. They call His Excellency Johnny Silverhand a kind and great wizard. In this way, His Excellency Johnny Silverhand led the establishment, and the first museum in the magic world was officially planned.